Thanks for tuning into No Wine in No Time. I'm your host, Dave, and today is New Year's Day 2019. What a year it's been. In August of 2018, we launched an idea called No Wine in No Time, and your response has been very much appreciated, humbling, and I'm extremely thankful for it. In the time that's passed since, we've posted 52 different videos and literally touched thousands of people around the globe. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I want to put you in control of the show. I regularly get feedback from people who ask specific wine questions, and of course I address them immediately. But I put together 4 of some of my favorites that I think will help the audience in general. And the first one comes to us from Beverly in Elmira, New York. And Beverly writes, I like sweet red wines, but I noticed there's not a lot of choices out there. Could you recommend some? Absolutely. And Beverly, you're exactly right. In the red wine category, dry wines dominate the market. There's no question about that. But there are some very classic, sweeter red wines out there. And one comes from Emilia-Romagna, Italy. This particular area specializes in sweeter red wines made from grapes like Lambrusco and Refosco. If we move over a little bit north and west in Italy into Piedmont, there are 2 wines that come from that particular area. One called Casorzo, made with Malvasia Nero, and one made from the Brachetto grapes. If we look into Germany, they have a sweet red wine called Dornfelter. And if we come here onto the U.S. soil, in the Carolinas, we have sweet red wine made from Muscadine and Schubernaug grapes. And if we go to the Lake Erie escarpment, we have wines made from grapes like Concord. So certainly any of those would be really nice for you to try, and I thank you for sending in your question. Second question comes to us from VinoFan189, and they sent in the question, why do some bottles come in unusually heavy, oversized packages? Well, that's kind of interesting. I'm seeing this more as a California trend, and it really comes down to marketing. If you have a bottle that's oversized and heavy, when you put it in your hands, you think, wow, I'm really getting something of extreme quality. But interestingly enough, these bottles are all coming from China. So China has the world market on these very oversized, heavy bottles. And what's interesting is these bottles empty way more than most bottles do full. So it's certainly some sort of an illusion. But to me, I think it's kind of overkill. When we look at some of the issues that California's had with arsenic in wine and the glyphosate scare last year, are we possibly getting out a little bit on the edge with these bottles? You know, who knows what they're made of? I'm not quite sure. But that's exactly it. They're oversized Chinese bottles, and they're made more for marketing than anything. Next, we have Kiki from New South Wales, Australia. And Kiki emailed, I like dry white wines, but I'm looking to transition to reds. Any suggestions on where I should start? That's a great question, Kiki. And basically, when we look at dry whites and transitioning to reds, one thing we want to do is watch our tannin levels. So when you make that transition, you don't want to jump all the way to a full-bodied, very tannic wine, because you'll probably scare yourself and say, red wines aren't for me. So what I say is go to a lighter-bodied, lighter tannic type of red wine. Think things like Beaujolais made from Gamay grapes, or a Pinot Noir. And then once you get comfortable with the red side of things, start to climb your way up the tannin ladder. Think Merlot next, then maybe Zinfandel, then Syrah, then Cabernet Sauvignon. And as you ease your way up through the reds, you'll find that it becomes much, much more palatable. And the final question we have today comes from Sam, and Sam lives in Guelph, Ontario. And Sam says, what makes a $50 bottle of wine a $50 bottle of wine? This is one of the best questions, because when we look at our local wine store, we see everything from $5 bottles of wine all the way to $500 bottles of wine. So there's a couple of things right away that make a more expensive wine more expensive. First could be the reputation of the vintner itself. That's one. Second, the location of the vineyard. If it's in a very prestigious place and the winemaker is a very prestigious winemaker, that's going to raise the price of the product. The third thing may be the vintage. There is vintage variation from year to year, and certainly a stellar vintage, those wines will attract a higher price tag. Ultimately, there's between 75 and 100 grapes in a single bottle of wine. And it's very interesting. So if we think about a $10 bottle of wine, each one of those grapes costs 10 cents. A $100 bottle of wine, each one of those grapes costs $1. So a huge difference in the cost of the wine when it takes the same amount of grapes to make the wine to begin with. Ultimately, the market will decide what the price of a wine will be. If the wine's not selling, it certainly will not be a high-priced wine. So that's all the time we have for today. For this particular episode, 2019 will be an amazing year. We've got some incredible ideas for what's coming up. So we please ask you to tune in next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.